Hello and welcome to session 6 of AP European History. What a ride it's been. The Middle Ages, the Black Plague, a little bit of Renaissance, and now we sit in the Reformation. It's time to assess and practice for the AP test. So how are we going to do that? Well, we're going to write a long essay question. So today's video is quite simply to explain what the LEQ is, the long essay question, talk to you a little bit about how you might attack it, and give you some suggestions on, well, doing the deed, writing it. So without further ado, let me show you what we're all about. So I think we've all sat in SpongeBob's position at some point, which is you have to write your essay. I believe this essay was for his driver's ed class. And he sits there and writes for a couple hours, and he comes up with that word, the. How do I write it? What's the best way to go? Let's do it. So in this video, I'll talk about what the LEQ is, what the rubric looks like that I'll be looking at when I read yours, and I'll go through 2 points that I think are the roughest in getting started. And finally, I'll help you organize your essay after you've done a little bit of pre-reading. And hopefully, when you have watched this video, you can know exactly what it's all about and return to it while you're writing and kind of get some feedback and a little bit of knowledge, perhaps. I suppose that's the goal. So let's think. What is the LEQ, and especially what contexts do you have to deal with it? Well, you're going to take an AP test, and you're going to have to do a couple different sections, so I'll just show it to you right now. You start with 55 multiple choice questions. It's about an hour long, give or take. And then you move on to short answer questions. There are 4, but you choose 3. More on that later. Then you get this sweet, sweet little break. You got your heart, you got your smiley face because you're happy. You go outside, but you don't get to talk to anybody about the test. You come back refreshed, ready to rock. You write a DBQ or a document-based question. And then when you are at your absolute lowest, or alternatively, most excited, they hit you with the long essay question. On this question, the good news is on the AP test, they will give you 3 questions. You look at them and you decide, ooh, I'm going to write this one. So you get to choose 1 out of 3. So, it's tough, it's long, but they do understand your situation. So you only, unfortunately, get 1 choice on this essay, and it's going to be all about what we've been doing in class, which I think you know all about. Little Henry VIII, little John Calvin. So what does the AP LEQ look like? Well, really, when I'm looking at them and assessing them, I'm looking for 6 different points. I'm just going to read them, and then I'll give you kind of a nudge on 2 of them. So you have to contextualize, tell us what's the broader situation happening. You have to argue. That is absolutely the most important part. So we call that like your thesis or your claim. You have to provide evidence to support your claim. So you get 2 points. 1, if you have relevant evidence, and 2, if you support your argument using that evidence. Finally, you can earn 2 more points if you use historical reasoning. There's kind of some possibilities here, which I'll go into in a moment. But generally speaking, you're just going to think like a historian. Finally, if you're really good, if you develop like a really complex understanding, you're comparing, you're contrasting, they're going to give you that 6 point, and you're just going to like feel so good, and you're going to rock it because you're a great historian. So let me go through like a sample prompt here. It's very similar to the one that you'll see in class. Mine, of course, I'm not going to give you the same one, so I just cooked this one up. It is evaluate the extent to which the Italian Renaissance differed from the Northern Renaissance. So some things that we've covered before, but right off the bat, you can see kind of what AP is all about. So I've italicized the job that you have to do, and that is evaluate to the extent. Evaluate the extent. Guaranteed at some point on your AP test, you're going to see something like this. So they want you to create an argument, and what better way than to ask you, like, come up with your own conclusion. Is this true? Is this not true? And their little argument is that the Italian Renaissance differed from the Northern Renaissance. So I'm going to do my best Miss Barbedian impression and say, before you even start reading or writing, you should just take a moment and jot down what you know. Do a little pre-writing. So for this question, I'm thinking, what is the major difference between these 2 things? Well, in Italy, as you saw in the multiple choice, it was all about like individual genius. It was what we call secular, so generally like non-religious, It's not really true, but I cooked up some examples of texts that might have been read. Machiavelli's The Prince, Castiglione's The Courtier, and, well, statue or sculpture, Michelangelo's David. In the north, this is where you see people like Erasmus and Thomas More. So they were more about social reform, Christianity, which led us into the Reformation. So in class, we read The Praise of Folly, which is where he was saying, it's bad luck to meet the monks. And in Utopia, Thomas More talks about what is the ideal society? Did he live in it? No, he did not. He kind of challenged Henry VIII and was beheaded for it. So, oops. So I've got my ideas down on paper. I've done some pre-writing. I know generally what I'm going to be talking about. So let's get into the nitty-gritty. So the first thing that you have to do in your introductory paragraph is write some context. So I'll just read you what the College Board says. They want you to describe a broader historical context relevant to the prompt. So context is like what was happening sort of before. So to earn this point, the response must relate the topic to broader historical events, but it's not awarded for merely a phrase or reference. You have to get specific. So, okay, I think I'm going to write an intro. So I'm going to write something like, well, in the Italian Renaissance, Europe was changing. You know, you start really broad. You just get some ideas down on paper so you don't end up like SpongeBob. Then you discuss what was happening prior. So I'm thinking, well, Petrarch was like writing love letters on Livy's grave, like that sort of a thing. We watched a video where they were sort of like climbing mountains to find these old Roman texts. So my context for the Renaissance is that they were discovering ancient texts from the Romans, and this led them to want to be, I suppose, better, find and glorify individuals. And of course, the art comes and all that crazy stuff. So I'm going to write this down. I'm going to say Europe changed during the 15th century because the Renaissance, started off, something like that. And then I'm going to say this began due to Petrarch's discovery of ancient texts, and Petrarch was also able to use the printing press. I know you guys, historians, you know that that's not really true. So you can say many other thinkers used the printing press to spread these ideas, and it became a movement. So I can show you my context here. Petrarch's discovery of Cicero's, Livy's forgotten writings brought about a renewed interest in the classical writings of the ancient Greeks and Romans. The invention of the printing press led to widespread circulation of classical texts, which form the foundations of humanism. Specific approaches to humanism differed in Italy and North. So you're already sort of transitioning into your argument. Notice I have two specific examples here, Cicero's writings and the printing press. So there's no way any reader can argue that you didn't get this point because you've set up your argument and you were specific and you explained that specific example. Next, you get to the AP Euro thesis statement. So these are the only 2 points I'm going to go through in this video. The AP Euro thesis statement is different. It's strange, but in the end, it's the same as any other thesis statement. This is my argument. So to write it, you should do 3 things first. You should carefully read and analyze the question. Done. You should plan your paragraphs. Did that in pre-reading. Now we got to develop it. We will go over this big time in our A-Day Zoom meeting. So I'm just going to pick one and then show you how I would write it so you have something to latch on to when you're writing yours. You can write 3 different ones, standard thesis. You can write the 2-sentence. Miss Davis and I still fight over whether or not your thesis can be 2 sentences. I love the although sentence. It's beautiful. It's analytical. It's different. You give your reader something like, oh, this kid gets it. So in my although thesis, I'm going to have a counter argument. So if I'm arguing that they were different, I might throw in a little comparison. Like these things were pretty similar. So although they were different, my 3 arguments prove that they were different. So although they were similar, these 3 arguments, A, B, and C, prove that they were different. So it's a contrast essay, so I'm contrasting. Therefore, in the end, my thesis statement for this specific essay might look something like this as an although thesis. Although the Italian and Northern Renaissances of the 15th century were similar in their emphasis on humanism, Italy focused more on individual genius, while the northern countries, there was a focus on Christian reform. And I've bolded my 3 body paragraphs to show a solid compare and contrast essay. I have been analytical in my discussion. I've given a situation, which is the 15th century in Europe. And What more can you say? We're analyzing. We have road mapped out our essay. Who's going to call me out? This thesis is a beautiful thing. So use this as an example as you write yours on a different topic. So let's think about this essay. So I'm going to return to our idea here. So we've got context, we've got thesis. Now, how am I going to organize my essay? Well, the way I see it, as I'm 10 minutes in, so I'm going to wrap this up, you have 3 different choices. Here's my 3 choices. You could, you're going to organize it as continuity, or sorry, comparison. These other 2, these are just other types of essays. You could use example 1. It's okay. You could do your intro, get your 2 points, your context and your thesis, then you could compare, then you could contrast, then you can conclude. Boom. It's fine. Generally speaking, people skimp on specific details when they do this, so I would argue that this really doesn't score well when you write this way. Does it work? Yeah. Is it perfect? No. So maybe you could choose example 2, which is a really beautiful score, but it's really time consuming. So you'd intro, get your 2 points, then you'd write body paragraph 1, where you compare and contrast the 2 things. So maybe humanism. Body paragraph 2, so what's their emphasis? Compare and contrast 2. Body paragraph 3, what's my final comparison and contrast? I'm going to talk about Christianity. One was secular, one was Christian. It's a really, really well done essay that I'm concluding, all these sorts of things. But you get 40 minutes to write the essay, so you're going to struggle to do this in 40 minutes, especially when you've written all of these other sections. So might I recommend example 3. Scores well, it's manageable if it's done right. So here's how I do it. Intro gets you 2 points. Give me the history of the Italian Renaissance, causes, motives, results. Third paragraph, Northern Renaissance, causes, motives, results. Finally, in an analytical paragraph, you compare and contrast. You give that reader what they want. You're a historian, so you're really talking about what is this situation? Why are we comparing it? And then you conclude. It's tough, all 3 are, but I really think naturally as writers, especially just such good English writers as you are, people just want to tell the history, and this one allows you to do that in the 2nd and 3rd paragraphs. And if you do that well, let's think about the rubric. We have contextualized, we've written a thesis, we provided evidence, we provided more evidence and connected it, we have used historical reasoning, which is comparison and contrast, and I think in the end you're going to write a pretty darn good essay, so you're going to get this final complex understanding. What more can you say? Written the essay and you're feeling good. So a little under 15 minutes. I want you to read this and your prompt, which is about the spread of the Reformation, and have this video available for any sort of questions that you have. With that, I will sign off. I hope you found something worthwhile. Good luck writing your essay. I will be around all week. See you.